Hello, my name is Barbara Chimberimer, and this is I Simply Believe. My guest today is Joan T Randall. She is a domestic violence survivor who has incredibly flourished and has changed many lives around the globe through the sharing of her incredible story. She's a powerful keynote speaker, a best-selling author, and has been featured on CNN, NBC, and countless others. She's the founder and CEO of JTR Enterprises Victorious You. Hi, Joan.
Hi.
Welcome to I Simply Believe.
Thank you. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you so much. So, Joan, please tell me about your first marriage.
So, very good question. I was married to a man that was abusive, and it all started with him being on vacation in Jamaica. And at the time, I was young, and I saw an opportunity of migrating from Jamaica to the US. And so we had a really short romantic prelude to a marriage, the engagement, and I got married and I moved from Jamaica to the States. I thought I met my knight in shining armor.
Wow.
At least that's what I thought.
Yeah.
And then when I came to the States, the abuse started almost immediately. Almost immediately. And you know, there's something to be said about knowing that something may not be right because of that gut feeling that you feel on the inside.
Yeah.
But you tell yourself, let me just put it to the back. Maybe I can change him. I was young, I was beautiful, you know, so maybe I could be influential enough
Can change him.
to change
But was there
him.
any signs when you were dating, when you first met him in Jamaica, when he first approached you during your short courtship? Were there any signs looking back hindsight? Were there anything that...
Absolutely not, because Jamaica is a place where you come on vacation. Usually you come with your best behavior, you know? So for the short time we were together in Jamaica, it was blissful.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. And then there was a lot of corresponding when he came back to the States. Like we communicated via telephone calls and writing letters.
So it was sweet.
So it was sweet. Everything was just beautiful. It was blissful.
Wow.
Yeah.
So fast forward to
Yes.
when you actually planned a triple murder.
Yeah.
Joan,
Yeah.
please tell us about that.
So for 7 years, I endured abuse. And the abuse, it scanned the gamut. It was physical, it was mental, it was emotional, it was verbal, it was financial, it was spiritual.
Wow.
So the abuse just ran every course that is possible to consider it abuse. At the time, though, I had no idea that this was called domestic violence.
Wow.
At the time, all I knew was that I was being treated in a way that made me lose who I was.
Controlled.
So it was control,
Yeah.
but more than control, it was power. So I felt powerless because his power controlled me. And I got to a point where I lost myself, I lost who I was. And I remember there were times when I would be walking and just wishing that someone would look at me and just know that I was being abused. I would look at people and I would just hope that they would look in my eyes and see that I was suffering, that I was struggling, that I was being abused.
So is that a cry for help? You wanted
It
someone to
was
help
my
you?
cry for help, but I didn't want to verbalize it. How do I leave and be able to take care of my children?
Wow.
Where would I go?
Yeah.
How do I leave his sphere of influence because he was so influential where he was? And I just thought that there was no escape.
Over?
How do I start over?
Yeah.
Where would I go? Where do I get money?
Yeah.
And so I would find myself just crying every day, and I would write these notes in a book that was given to me by a friend of mine. You know, I remember I got a part-time job as my little escape. I loved it. So when I would go to work Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, it was my way of escaping. But he would have to take me to work and pick me up. But he didn't care that I kept the job. So he would take me to work late and pick me up late. So I would have to lie about what time I needed to be at work just so I could get there on time.
Wow.
And then it was an evening part-time job. So I would be done working at a certain time at night, and I would have to sit outside of the mall and wait for him. The physical abuse was one thing, but the psychological one was worse.
Yeah.
You know, that was the part that really got me. And so I just had this great idea one day that I knew how to get out of the situation. And I was going to take my life and the life of my children.
Wow.
And believe it or not, Barbara, it gave me a sense of peace. Yeah.
Wow.
When you get to a point in your life where the mere thought of suicide and murder gives you peace, you have lost all sense of self. You have lost who you are. I no longer knew who Joan was. She disappeared. That vibrant, energetic, full of life, incredible young woman was gone.
So tell us, walk us through it. The day came, you planned your death and your children's death.
Yeah.
I mean, as a mother, you must be pretty far gone to even envision that, to see you killing your kids and yourself.
Yeah.
So
I didn't think about it at the time as killing them and killing myself. I thought about it as us going to sleep.
wow.
That was what gave me the peace. Because all I'm doing was putting us to sleep. And I figured that we wouldn't have to wake up another day feeling the way I do. And I was not going to leave my kids.
No, not
I was not going to run away. I was not going to escape. I was not going to try to leave leave my two daughters.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. If there were boys, I don't know, maybe I would have had a different thought process.
Yeah.
But there were girls.
Yeah.
And I was not going to leave them to the world, this cruel world, now that I understood what domestic violence was.
Yeah.
That I was never wanting to leave my girls to this cruel world where that may happen to them. I knew I needed to go.
Wow.
So I was going to take them with me.
So what was the breaking point? I mean, what was your, I wouldn't say your aha moment, but what stopped you from doing that, from going through that process?
I want to just back up a little bit, because I would do practice runs. I would literally, like, without the gun, would walk into my daughter's room, rehearse it.
Wow.
Yeah. I would walk into my oldest daughter's room and look at her sleeping in the bed and say, if I put a bullet in her head, she won't feel it. And then I would go into my youngest one's room and do the same thing. Then I would take my life, and none of us would really feel it, right? 3 shots, it's done. It's over. We'll go to sleep. And so this morning in question, my kids usually wake up later than earlier. And so I planned to do it right around 5:30ish in the morning, because I knew that they would never be up at that time. And this day in question, I cried all night. My pillow was wet. I woke up. I got up. I went into my closet, took the gun. I came out of the closet, walked into my bedroom, and all I heard was the door opening and this little voice that says, "Mommy." And that was the youngest one. She was 4. And I froze.
Yeah.
And she walked into the room, and I could see her feeling her way to find me in the darkness.
Wow.
My eyes were already adjusted
Yeah.
to the room, but hers, she was trying to feel her way around. And all I heard was, "Mommy." And when she said, "Mommy," I froze. I'm standing in my pajamas with a gun in my hand. I could never shoot her alive, right?
Yeah, no.
And so I had no plan B. So when I heard "Mom" and the
Thank
door
God.
open, I'm like, what do I do now? So the only thing I could do was sit on the floor and put the gun under my thigh.
Hide it. Yeah.
And she made her way, feeling around, "Mommy." And I say, "Hey, baby." So she touched my face, and she felt that it was wet. And she recognized that it was wet. And then what she said next stumped me, because at 4 years old, I'm not expecting a baby to say, "Mommy, are you sad?" And I said, "Yes, baby, Mommy is sad." And then she said, and this is the life-changing moment, this is the miracle moment, this is the only God moment that had to make this happen, was when that 4-year-old baby said, "I can make you happy." And I said, "How are you going to do that?" She put her arms around my neck and she squeezed with all her might. And in that moment, something, and you can't convince me otherwise, something through the dawn, the light that was coming through my window, came right through the body of my 4-year-old child into me. And it was as if something woke me up.
Wow.
And I recognized for the first time what I was really trying to do.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
And I held her, I put my head on her shoulder and bawled, wept. And this 4-year-old just pat my back and said, "It's going to be okay, mommy. It's going to be okay, mommy." So that for me was the first time I experienced God in a miracle. There.
That's incredible. That's amazing,
And that's
Joan.
how
Wow.
I'm still here.
So from there, how did you leave the situation?
So I knew after that I needed to figure out a way to get out, because I woke up. I woke out of the nightmare, and I knew that I needed to save myself and my daughters. And I knew if I'd stayed there for the rest of my life, I would never make it out. So many women lose their life because they stay for their children.
Wow.
I decided to save my life by leaving for my children.
Yeah.
And so I started thinking, okay, what's next? I still didn't know what to do, but I just started writing, and my writings were still prayer. God help me. How do I leave? Who do I know? And I go back. I still have that diary from all those years. And I still wasn't sure what was the next step. But I remember going to work one day with a little bit of blood on my shirt from a fight that we had. And he had punched me, and the hand he used had a ring on it, and the ring connected to my nose, and I was bleeding. And I remember my daughter, that same 4-year-old baby, she was sitting on the bed, and I ran out of the bathroom to grab the phone to call 911, and he turned around and he said to me, "If you call the cops in my house, I will kill you and be happy to spend the rest of my life in prison." I believed him.
Whoa.
I believed him. That was the time I saw a different person in his eyes. His eyes were different, almost like dark, like the pupil of his eyes were dark when he said it. And fear like really took over. And my baby was on the bed and she said, "Mommy, don't talk. Mommy, don't talk. Please, Mommy, don't talk." As if to say, if you talk, he's going to get angry, so don't talk. And I looked at her and she was crying.
Wow.
And I knew that I had to leave.
Yeah.
And I cleaned up myself and I got to work, but I didn't recognize that there was blood on my shirt. And so I walked in. I was a sales associate and I walked in, but you have to clock in right by security when you go into the buildings. And I walked into the building. The security guy stopped me. And he said, "You have blood on you." And I'm like, "No, I don't." He goes, "Yes, you do." And when I looked down, I saw it and it just broke down. I could no longer hide it because I lied so much to my job. And they were suspecting, but because I wasn't able to come forward and say it because of fear, I just lied. But that day I couldn't lie anymore. And my manager called me in her office. And it was the first time that somebody asked me, "How can I help you?"
Oh. Wow.
That was all I've wanted to hear the entire time, for somebody to just look at me and see that I was suffering. I had a sister in Florida. She picked up the phone. She called the Florida area where we had another store. And she got on the phone with HR. She told HR what was happening. HR said, "Whenever she's ready, we have a job for her here." And that was the first time I felt hope. And then that lady, my manager, I'll never forget her. She gave me a paper, and on the paper, just some tips as to what to do. She was just started asking me questions, and she said, You need to get your own bank account. You need to open a safe deposit box. She was just telling me some tips, put your passport, your driver's license, your kid's birth certificate, take them and put them in the bank, in the safe deposit box of the bank. Yeah. That was how I finally got
a plan
in place to strategically. So I would go home and take the passports, the birth certificate, the things that I know were important to me, the medical cards, all of that, and just put them in the safe deposit the box at the bank. But the day of the escape, I still wasn't ready because I still wasn't sure what to do.
Afraid,
I was still afraid.
Yeah, of course.
We had a fight that night, and it was about midnight. And he got up, and this is what he would always do, fight at night so he could leave and not come back in the morning. My oldest one came down and said, Mommy, this is it. We got to go.
How old was she?
11.
Wow.
I'm like, really? She said, yeah, we got to go tonight. I'm like, baby, we can't. She said, Mommy, I'm ready. I've been helping you. And I'm like, what do you mean? She said, let me show you. She took my hand and she took me to her bedroom. And in her bedroom is the pull-down door to the attic. Wow. My 11-year-old climbed up in the attic and threw down 6 black trash bags.
My goodness.
And in the trash bags were clothes for her and her sister. Clothes, shoes, toys, books, all the things. So she was hiding articles of clothing for her and her sister in trash bags in the attic, so that when I got to my senses and decided to leave, their stuff would already been packed.
Wow.
And then 6 trash bags came down. She ran downstairs to the kitchen. She got 4 more trash bags, went into my bedroom and started packing my stuff. And then she said, Mommy, you write a letter and leave it on the bed. My 11-year-old. So I wrote a letter, because she's in her mind, she's thinking, if you don't write a letter, he's going to think someone kidnapped us or something. And we want him to know we left.
I love that.
So I wrote a letter, left it on the bed.
Wow.
We packed the 10 black trash bags. Only 6 could fit in the trunk. The other 4 went on the back seat of the car, and I strapped her and her sister in the front seat, put the younger one in the older's one lap, put the seatbelt around them, and we all left in our pajamas. That's how I left my husband.
Where did you go?
We just drove for miles until we got to a Howard Johnson motel. And just checked in because I didn't know what's next.
Yeah.
But I knew I needed to get out.
That is incredible.
And my book comes out this year called Bags in the Attic.
What a fitting name. That's amazing. That is amazing.
Yeah.
How did you give love a second chance? Because most women who go through something like this will be like, okay, I had my chance. That's it. I'm swearing off man. No love for me. I'm just going to focus on myself, my career, my kids, and that's it.
Yeah.
But you gave love a second chance.
Yeah. So you know what? It was a lot of growing that I needed to do, because I saw the red flags, but I ignored them.
Yeah.
So I owned some of what I went through. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I am not going to sit here and say it's 100% his fault. I saw the signs. I chose to ignore the signs for whatever reasons I had in my mind.
Yeah.
Because I think I could change him. I think he would be perfect with me. I think I'm the woman to make a difference. No. And so a lot of times we see those signs, but we ignore those signs.
Yeah.
So I had to come to grips with myself, and I had to forgive myself.
Yeah.
And it was only through the forgiveness that I was able to grow. And through that growth.
That's very powerful. That's very powerful.
Yeah.
To forgive yourself. Wow.
That was how I had to grow, because I held on to the fact that he abused me for so long that I found myself stuck in a rut psychologically.
Yes.
But on the other side, the emotional side, I was stuck in a place, in a mental prison, because I couldn't get past the fact that I was beaten.
Yeah.
And not only was I beaten, after I ran away and spent some few months with my sister, I had to leave, and then I was homeless. So I went from being abused as a woman to going to Florida and being homeless with my 2 daughters.
My God. Wow.
Yeah. So I found myself stuck in this mental prison, but I was growing on the other side.
Wow, so there's two sides to you.
There are two different sides.
Wow.
And then I came to a crossroad. I either needed to go forward or go backward, right? Because that's what happens when you go to a crossroad, left or right. The left would be keep blaming him. The right would be keep moving forward.
So you made a choice.
So I made a choice to keep moving forward, but with moving forward comes self-actualization, where you got to stand in the mirror and look at yourself and say, Joan, you made some mistakes.
Wow.
And now you got to forgive yourself and you've got to heal.
Yeah.
And not all men are like that.
That, woo! It takes a lot to realize that not all men
Not
are like
all men
that.
are like that.
Yeah.
And so after I started healing, I started growing. And then there was a spiritual aspect that took over all of the mental prison that I was going on. I had faith. The Holy Spirit was there
Always.
with me.
Yeah.
The Holy Spirit sent my daughter in the room. The Holy Spirit gave my oldest daughter the knowledge to put those bags in the attic.
Yeah.
The Holy Spirit got me out. When I was homeless, the Holy Spirit sent someone, a good Samaritan, to get us off the street. So the Holy Spirit had been there all along. So I needed to tap into that in order to grow.
Yeah.
Not just as a person on a whole, but as a person with a spiritual understanding that God had always been there.
Wow. What a story, Joan. High five. That was amazing. And I remember when I spoke to you a while back, I asked you, why didn't you leave? And you corrected me. You said, no, you don't ever ask an abused person, why didn't you leave? What should we ask? And why
How
not?
can I assist you? How can I support you?
Okay.
What do you need me to do? How can I help you? Because asking, why do you not leave, is almost like a slap in the face. They know they're in an abusive relation. They know that they need to leave. But for something is keeping them there. Right? Because when you're in an abusive situation where someone has power and control, you lose your own power. So you feel powerless. And then there are the children. You're thinking, I don't have a job. I don't have a place for my children to live. If I leave him, where do I go? Who supports me? How do I feed them? And the fear of being homeless, the fear of being in a domestic violence shelter. So all of that comes into play.
You become this woman at work. You're like superwoman at work, right?
Yeah.
And you work your way up all the way. You become vice president.
Yes.
Vice president.
Yes.
And then you leave.
Yes.
What inspired you to leave?
Right. So I got to a point where I started to feel as if everything that I wanted to accomplish at that job was done. I knew that there was a purpose inside because I started to feel it. I started to get a very uncomfortable feeling that God handpicked me to do some things that I'm not doing. And I had a story that was incredible.
Yeah.
And my story can save some lives.
Yes.
And I was taking on that accountability that if I didn't share my story, that there are people out there that got assigned to me that would lose their lives from a lack of not telling my story.
Woo!
So I knew my story was a lifesaver.
It is.
And I wanted people to know that, number one, you can come from a little island. You can come from anywhere in the world and have that spirit on the inside that perseveres, and you can become anything you put your mind to. Number two, I never finished college because of all of the things that I had to endure. But God qualified me. Number three, I was standing in a position as a vice president, one of very few Black women. And I had influence. And I need people to hear that not too long ago, I was beaten, I was broken, I was busted, I was homeless.
Incredible. Incredible.
Right.
Wow.
So I wanted those out there that were in that situation to understand that it can happen to you, but it doesn't have to define you.
It doesn't.
doesn't have to define you, and that your power lies within, and that anything you want to be or anything you want to accomplish, it is your own mindset that will allow you to accomplish it or prevent you from accomplishing it.
This is something that I strongly to my core believe in. So what advice would you give a man, because men go through abuse too.
Absolutely.
A man or woman who is currently going through an abusive situation of any sort, what would you tell them?
I would say, find someone you trust to speak to. Don't keep it to yourself.
Yeah.
You cannot keep it to yourself.
Okay.
Find someone, and it does not have to be a family member. It could be a pastor. It could be a best friend. It could be someone at work. If you go to church, it could be someone at church. But find someone that you can trust, a confidant that you can share it with. Also, there's a lot of resources out there that can help you. If it's a physical situation, listen, I would suggest that you always call 911 if it is physical, because you never know how a physical abuse, where it will lead to. And there's a lot of women now. 1 in 4 women are abused every day, and also 1 in 7 men. That is a high statistic as well. And within that statistic as well, 30% of those women that are abused will lose their lives. There's a lot of resources out there. There is the National Domestic Violence Hotline that you can really go online. I think it's called NCADV.
Okay.
The National Association of Domestic Violence. There's so many resources out there.
Okay. And for those of you who live out of the country, just go to police station.
Yeah.
If you've been abused, if there's physical violence involved, whatever it is, if you need to get away, go to your nearest police station and let them know what's going on. I'm sure they'll be able to help you. So Joan, if anyone wants to get in touch with you or connect with you, where can they find you?
So I can be found anywhere at all at Joan T Randall. So my website is www.joantrandall.com, and then all my social media handles are Joan T Randall.
So finally,
Yes.
Joan,
Yes.
what do you simply believe?
I believe that we are powerful beyond measures. I believe that we have dominion over everything that we control.
Yeah.
I believe that the mind is the most powerful tool in our bodies.
Yeah.
And if we just change our mindset to one of growth, success, and limitless opportunity, we can be whoever we want to be in this life.
That's amazing. That is fantastic. It has been amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
Thank
you
you
for having me.
My pleasure too. Well, wow. What a conversation. I hope that you've been inspired. If you are going through such a situation, whatever that might be, abuse of any form, please contact your local police, talk to someone you can trust, and my hope is that you find a way out. And as you can see, there is always hope. You can live and you can thrive. Thank you for joining us. I'll see you next time on I Simply Believe.